you have been looking for a way to own a pinable mannequin, also known as a dress form, but you lack funds to get one for yourself because of how expensive it has become of recent, then you have to watch this video to the end because I'll be giving you the tips and tricks on how to draft the pattern papers and how to cut it on your fabric and how to stitch it up to get this required result. Let's get to the cutting table, guys. Alright, on the table now, I have gone ahead to mark up my vertical measurements, my shoulder to bust, shoulder to chest line, under bust, bust point, hips, and the full length. Now for the full length, you have to come down from your hip by 4 to 5 inches. 4 to 5 inches is okay. So I'm now going further to mark my measurements. I've gone ahead to take the bust measurement, that's what I'm marking now, the waist measurement, the under bust measurement, the hip measurement, and that of the full length. Now to get how to shape it at the hem at the full length area, you subtract 2 inches or 1.5 inches from your hip measurement, just like how we draft our pencil skirts. That is how you go about for the down area. So moving forward, I'm going ahead to mark my bust span measurement, which is 8 inches divided by 2 is giving me 4, and I'm marking the 4 inches all around the pattern paper from the bust point to the finishing line, that's to the full length. So I'll go ahead and use my ruler to connect it up with my pencil, just like you can see. I'll go ahead and connect it up, and after I have done that, I'll be taking my dart. I'll be giving it a dart intake. So at the waist area, I went inward, that's at the inner area, I went inward by 1.5 inches for the dart. And at the center front area, I took 1 inches. So that is for the dart that I'm working with, to the total of 2.5 inches. That's the total dart that I removed from the cloth. But for the hip area, I marked 1 inch. For the full length, I also marked 1 inch. The only place I marked 1.5 and 1 inch is just at the under bust area and at the waist area. That's where I took the total dart of 2.5 inches. For the rest of the places marked, I did 1 inch for the rest of the pattern. That's the hip area and at the full length area. So I'm going further to connect my lines like so, just like you can see me do. I'll go ahead and connect them into a straight line. So after that, I'll now connect the curves and connect it to the bust point. So to take it to the bust point, I came down by 1/2 inch on the bust area and I went up by 1/2 inch also. So I don't want it to have a pointy curve. That's why I came down by 1/2 inch. So I've connected the center front area. So I'm going further to connect the other dart leg. So just like what you can see me do, I'm going further to connect it, and I have connected that. So we are now moving also further to replace this dart intake that we have. The dart of 2.5 inches around the under bust, I'm going to be replacing it, and I'll mark what I have there. At the waistline also, I will mark, and at the hip line, I will mark the hip measurements plus the dart intake, because if you don't replace it, you are definitely going to be running short of fabric. You understand? So you replace the dart intake, and I also do that at the hem area, that's at the full length area. So that is what I am marking. I placed my hip measurement and I added the dart intake that I took out, because we're going to be cutting that dart. Yes, we're going to be cutting it out just like we do cut our bustier dart out. So I'll now go ahead to connect the lines from the chest line area to the bust points, to the waist, to the under bust. And I will now use my pattern curve to connect that of the hip area to the waist, from the waist to the hips. Then I'll now go ahead and give it that shape. You see why I told you that you minus 1.5 inches or 2 inches from the waist to get that of the down area, just like the way we cut our pencil skirt. Now at the upper part, I've gone ahead to mark my shoulder measurements, and I'll now use my straight ruler to connect it into a straight line. But because what we are making is not an actual dress, it is a dress form, I came out by 2.5 inches away from the shoulder 2.5 inches, and I will mark. So I'll use my curve to connect from that 2.5 inches to the chest line. So we are no longer working with that actual shoulder measurement. So I'll connect like so from that 2.5 inches that we came out from to the chest line. So this is now our armhole. So on this part, I will mark 1 inch and measure the neck width. That 1 inch is going to serve as the shoulder slope. So I did a neck of 2.75 inches. That's a neck of 2.75, close to 3 inches, but not up to 3, 2.75, and I'm connecting the shoulder slope. So I came down for the neck depth. I did a neck depth of 2.5 inches. That's 2.5 inches for the neck depth. So that's what I'm marking now, 2.5 inches, and the width of the neck is 2.75. So I'll now go ahead and connect the lines together like so. I'll go ahead and connect it just like you can see me do. And after connecting that, we will now get a way to draft the shoulder dart. This is going to be having a shoulder dart. We'll connect the dart to the shoulder area. So to do this, you come in by 2 inches. I came in by 2 inches from where that neck width stopped. Then I went in from that part to 2.5 inches. So if you watch closely, let me demonstrate again. 2 inches from here, then another 2 inches for the dart intake. So the first line, I will connect it to the bust span area, to the bust span measurements that we have at the bust point area. That's for that 2 inches I came in from where the neck width stopped. I'll go ahead and take it into a straight line. Just watch closely. You are going to understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going ahead to connect it, and I will now mark that 2 inches also, and I will connect. Do you get? So that is now going to serve as the dart intake for the shoulder dart. So I will go ahead and take my ruler now, and I will connect it, and we have gotten our shoulder dart. So because we took out 2 inches again, please do ensure to replace your dart. I'm going further to use my curve to make sure that the bust point area is not too pointy. So that is what I am doing there now. So because we took out 2 inches, I will now move further to replace that shoulder dart that we had. So for this shoulder dart now, I'm going to be replacing it. So we have 2 inches. So away from this particular line, that's 2.5 inches that we went out from the main shoulder. We will still go out again by 2 inches for the dart replacement. So we are now going to still connect it to the bust, to the chest line area. That's the bust measurement. This is now going to be our original and actual armhole. The reason why we are now extending this the more is because we took out a dart of 2 inches at the shoulder area. So we definitely have to replace that dart. So that is what you are seeing me mark here. This is just like the normal way we cut our bustier. When you put a dart, you replace the number of darts. If you have 5 inches dart, all in all, you find a way to replace it also so that your fabric will not be running short. So we'll no longer be using this first line. So I'm now going ahead to use my eraser to clean this. Yeah, I want to make this video to be very detailed so that everybody can understand. So I'll now use my eraser to clean that first line out. So it is no longer in use. The one we are using now is this particular one. So automatically we are done with cutting the front part. Yes, that is just all about it. So this is the shoulder. So because I don't like the way this part is pointed, I'll now come in by 1/2 inch. Yeah, I'll measure 1/2 inch like so. And I will give it a curve, a slant curve, just like you can see. I will now use my pattern curve to just give it a little bit of curving around there. Just that's what I'm doing now. So that is what we have. So automatically we are done with this draft. Yeah, so I'm now using my marker pen to make it more visible for us to see. You see that shoulder that we took out? And that is the replacement that we have there. So I'm going further to have the armhole, and this part I shaded is the part that we are going to be cutting out. These shaded parts are the parts to be cut out. So that is that for the front. We are done for the front. Please, I wrote center back. It's not center back, it's supposed to be center front, That's a mistake. Yeah, do ensure to label yours so that you won't be confused. Now we'll now go further to cut the back piece. The back piece is as easy as ABC. It's just as simple as, so from one end, mark your shoulder measurement, come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, mark your bust measurement, mark your waist measurement. I'm marking my hip measurement already. That's what I'm marking now, my hip measurement, and I'll minus 2 inches from that hip measurement and add it to the hem measurement, and that is what we have. So I'm moving further to mark out my bust span measurements, just like we did for the front, 4 inches. So I'll go ahead and connect them into a straight line for the for the back dart. So for this back dart, I did 1 inch on each of the sides. Yeah, I did 1 inch for the dart. That's 2 inches total for the back dart. So at the hip area, I did not take any dart because I want to transfer that dart to the hip so that the hip can get a little bit of curve. Yeah, that's why I didn't. You just watch closely. I closed that dart around the hip and I went further to open it up at the hem area with the same 1 inch. And that's what I did now. So this is going to give the hip a bit of curve. Yeah, it's going to give it that curve. Do you get? So that is what we have at that part. So I will now go ahead to replace my dart intake so that I will not still run shortage. Just exactly the same way we did the front, just that this one now is not having a bustier. Yeah, so I'll now go further to connect the lines. For the hip part, I'm using my pencil to connect the hip because we are going to be alterating it later. So I'll now use my pencil to connect it. Now, if you watch closely, you will see that the hip of the front is a bit more curvier than that of the back. You do get? So I'm going to be subtracting 1/2 inch from the front hip and I will replace it at the back hip. I don't know if you understand my point. So I'm now taking 1/2 inch away. I'm now removing, did you see? I'm now removing the 1/2 inch from the front hips. I'll still go ahead to use my marker to mark it. Sorry, I'm supposed to use a red marker, but I didn't know it was the blue one I took. So I hope you can understand. So that is the 1/2 inch that I'm removing from the hip measurement of the front. So I will still go ahead and replace that 1/2 inch at the back hip so that the back hip can have the same equal curve as that of the front. So you can see for the back hip, I'm coming out by 1/2 inch. So I'll now use my red marker to mark it. Do you see what I am marking? So that is the back hip that we are having. So we've connected it. If I finish marking, you see that the back will now have a bit of curve around the hip area. So I'll now use my pattern curve to give it that hip curve effect. So do you see? This was the first line and now this is the second line for the back hips. So this is how you're going to do yours. And the reason why it is like this is because we didn't put a dart at the hip area, but we added a dart at the hem. So it is that dart at the hem that now made the hip not to be curved. So we'll now go over to the upper area, just like we did for the front. We'll come out from the shoulder, main shoulder, we'll come out by 2.5 inches and we'll connect the lines, just like what we did for the front. So we'll come out by 2.5 inches for the main shoulder and connect the line. So I'll go ahead and mark the neck width of 2.75 inches and the neck depth of 1 inch for the back, and I will connect my shoulder slope for the back. I'm so sorry the camera is not showing the neck, but I didn't know it wasn't filming. But I just hope you can understand. It's just the neck that we took now. The neck width of 2.75 rather, and the neck depth of 1 inch. So for the shoulder, I will mark what is remaining from the shoulder, the remaining of the shoulder, and I'll divide into 2. Just the normal way we do our bustier. Divide into 2, and I'll take half inch on both sides. Then that is for the shoulder dart at the back. So I'll now connect this this chest dart that we have. I'll now connect it like so to the shoulder dart for the back shoulder. So also mind you, that 1 inch that we took for the shoulder, we are going to be replacing it. Please don't forget to replace your dart, because if you don't replace your dart, you are going to be getting it all wrong from the drafting. So I'll now go ahead and replace my dart, and that 1/2 inch that I curved, I will now curve it in for that shoulder too. So ignore this line now. This is not the main line. This one I marked is not the line. So the other one is the line. So for the back, center back, I went in by 0.75 inches to eliminate the bulge. If you like, you can put zip in yours. If you like, you can just stitch it over. But make sure to eliminate the waist bulge. The bulge, all this bulge that we have at the waist area. That's what I mark now. So I'm shedding out the part that is going to be cut off. All this part that is shaded out, we don't need them. So automatically we are done with the drafting. Now for the back dart, you can as well not take anything away from the shoulder. You can just slant it up to the to the shoulder that you divide by 2, and you are good to go. But I'm going to be marking mine like that. So do well to label yours so that you won't be confused. Now it's time to cut out. Please just pay attention to what I am cutting so that you see the parts to be cut out and you will not get confused. So that's the center back that I cut out. I'm cutting the dart for the back. So this is the curve around the hip area that I told you. Yes, that's why we transferred the dart into the hip area. So we are done drafting the back. We are now drafting the front piece. So I'll go ahead to draft the bustier part, the neck, the shoulder slope, and I'll finish up drafting the bustier on the other side, and voila, we are done. We'll now have this cut on our fabric. So for mine, I used a crepe fabric to achieve this. Do you get? I used a crepe fabric, and this is what we have. So if you have watched this video to this point, guys, kindly subscribe to my channel and give me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are. See you in my next video where I'll be showing you how to join this up and go about the finish process. Bye.